the blue bottom side of the UI, Denial, red and top side. First pick and first ban the way of TSM, and it's Athena out of the pool right away. Yeah, I mean, is there any gods that you think Denial plays especially well? Will we see Kabrakan ban, perhaps?
So you can get this information just off the past replays. Denial always first picks their Guardian. Every single time, and ShadowQ loves his Athena. So just taking that out of the god pool immediately is just the go-to. And it looks like TSM is actually copying our ban strategy. We banned out Athena Yanis, and they're doing the same.
And it's that really new strategy they developed with Giannis. The hard initiations, they would always counter ward around mid camps primarily, and then just ult in with the Giannis, and we see the Geb blink in, and they would typically wombo combo someone before anyone could react.
I think the hardest carry player out of Denial is by far Mace of the Face. Mace of the Face carries that team very hard, and I give him full respect. I think he's an amazing player, and he's really improved over this Season 2, but yeah, people are just banning him out now.
Well, speaking of full respect here, you'll see Geb picked to try to mitigate some of Denial's first pick, Guardian, you're allied, describing there, but they have left Isis open for Mace of the Face. This is one of their very, very highly favored mages.
I would assume it'd probably be Isis and then one of Denial's Guardians. It could also be so ShadowQ's favorite Guardians are kind of banned out here, so yeah, probably is Bologna Isis, if I had to take a guess here. Bologna definitely locked in. Bologna's just strong. I mean, there's nothing wrong with her, really.
I think TSM drafted this Geb to take it away from Denial.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. Because, like you said, we've been seeing the Athenas banned out, and Denial always grabs that first pick Geb, and taking that away is really going to put the pressure onto Denial.
Denial's response was great there. ShadowQ's a veteran support. They were like, well, you know what? They took out all the supports I want. Don't worry about it now. Let's just grab Bologna, Isis. Let's set up our potential solo or jungle, and let's give Mace his best god. I mean, it's the Denial Isis skin, right? Like, I mean, that's
Look
basically
at this Bastet. So early on, I was actually going to say, opportunity for an Awilish pickup here with the first pick Geb. They may be looking towards that with that low mobility on Isis, but no, it's going to be Bastet. Similar kind of idea against the Isis, at least. She doesn't have a great escape tool from the Kitty Cat's Wing Gust. That bonus movement speed not going to be enough to get away. Hunbot's drafted as well on the side of Denial, rounding out a very, very strong mid-game team fight presence for them out of the Bologna Isis Hunbot's ultimate combination. TSM, a little bit more mobile, a little more agile in these fights, and still have that swing pick in Apollo.
Yeah, I mean, I like what Denial did here. They picked up the Humbats. Thor was banned away out of them. So here's the thing about Bastet. That could also be a snap at, I do know Bask into the Face loves his Bastet solo, but it could be also a team plan for TSM. I mean, Snoopy definitely loves Apollo, and I'm curious to see, like, how will this Bastet play in this team comp? I mean, it's very early for a Bastet pick. She doesn't really bring much to the team when you look at it on paper. It's just damage and slows. Right?
Ideally, she's going to be looking to shut down this Isis early. Mace really loves to buy Blink, but he doesn't invest in the combat Blink early. So if the Bastet can hit him, basically taking him into combat and really shut him down, it's going to be onto the rest of Denial to protect Mace in these team fights and early gank attempts.
Sobek drafted here by Denial in their 4th position. The second round of bans coming out as well. Removed from the pool, Shibalanke and Agni. Poseidon now drafted on the side of Team SoloMid. One more pick pending for them. Likely to be either another Hunter or a more resilient solo laner, perhaps a Hades coming out from Divios here, would synergize well with the lineup and help mitigate some of the team fight presence of Denial. That's Sobek. I'm figuring him for the solo lane here.
Yeah, I mean, actually, well, they don't have a Hunter yet, so I'm assuming that's
This is really interesting. Chalk for Divios. Divios, really known as a player that kind of outplays his opponents in Chalk. Not a lot of potential in that regard. Very safe, very much more of a farmer than a big playmaker. I
think it's because of the potential of counterpick. It's very hard to actually counterpick Chalk because at the very best, you can just stalemate the lane. But the Medusa is locked in. It's 100% Bologna solo.
Yeah.
And I think Divi's just looking at, let's play this out. I'm just going to be a tanky monster and just do Chalk things, make it rain. And the Medusa locked in here. So Denial actually has a fairly aggressive lane, but they usually play that pretty passively going for the mid to late game. I mean, Bronx Bomb is known for being that late game carrying
Actually, I'm pretty sure it's Madman Mark playing in place of Bronx this week.
No way.
Well.
Is it? It is.
It is. So Madman Mark will be filling in for Bronx.
That's huge.
In their final week. I don't know if this is Bronx not being here or Denial wanting
Mark
to
did
bring
so
in
well.
Mark. Yeah, I mean, Mark's actually sitting with what, the highest KDA on the esports site right now.
He's glad, man.
He only had 2 games against enemy, but he is sitting at the top with 0 deaths.
All I know is if Madman Mark comes back, I'm gonna be sad. He's so good.
Are you more scared of Madman Mark over Bronx?
Yeah, yeah, and it's nothing too Bronx, but Madman's style of play is way more annoying, and it could throw me off.
Is it aggressive?
It's a mixture of like it's aggressive and it's like you give him respect of making plays because like the potential of team fights, but sometimes he just does things and it doesn't make any sense and he gets away with it. I'm like,
it sounds like he's like Moex.
He's NA-MOX, yeah.
He's unpredictable. It's just like
does whatever he wants, hits his skill shots, and somehow gets away with diving towers.
Yeah, with very good precision, and not to mention he can carry games very easily. So Madman Mark, really strong Hunter player, so it's nice to see him back too because Shadow Q and Madman have that initial synergy. So maybe they'll make something happen because these are the most important games.
Well, guys, we are underway here. The gong has sounded. In 1 second, the minions will spawn. It's Team SoloMid versus Denial Esports. TSM will be your blue squad. Bottom side of the minimap and the left side of the spectator UI. It's Divios, Gars, Boosh, Eonic, and Snoopy. There'll be us Chalk, Bastet, Poseidon, Geb, and Apollo. Their opponents today wearing the red trunks at the top side of the minimap and the right side of the spectator UI. It's Denial. They have to win both games to keep their LAN hopes alive. Baskin to the face will be your solo lane, Bologna. Shing in the jungle as bots. Mace to the face in the mid lane as Isis. And that's Shadow Q and Madman Mark as your dual lane Sobek Medusa. That's just an absurd amount of clear for that lane between the Sickle Strike, and Medusa's cones. It's going to be very, very fast clear. Apollo Geb going to be a bit behind. But one thing I do want to point out here, it's Apollo Devo's Glove build, which is a little bit out of meta right now. However, paired with the Bastet and the Chalk initiation, very, very strong in that Gold Fury early on. So look for TSM to exploit any kind of early advantage, maybe even go for that right side mid-camp bait into Gold Fury with this lineup.
Fun fact, Snoopy likes to go Ickful before Boots, and that is a better power spike than the Transcendence build right now. The only reason you don't actually see it that much with the Bluestone nerf, it's very uncommon for people to actually go Dev's Toll Devo Gloves because you run out of mana. Especially with that build, you have no form of actual mana sustain. But the Transcendence builds to help hunters that have mana problems in lane, like Medusa. Medusa uses a lot of mana.
Yeah, ability focus on the clear. Yeah, that's only providing that little bit of mana on hit. Not enough to really reliably use your abilities, simply maybe getting you that one extra dash throughout the laning phase.
A very surprising early back coming from the mid lane. We see Shing and Mace to the face actually back at 1 minute and 30 seconds. I don't think I've ever seen this. They had no mana problems. They were both full health, almost full mana.
Well,
yeah,
look, they've timed it to get back to the back camps faster.
Has this something you've done before?
Yes.
Something you've practiced? Okay.
Yeah, I think it's really important. And looking at the mid lane, it looks like Lost Artifact build, but Isis went Boots 1. So maybe an early Boots rush, and he has Aegis and Beads already done. That's early.
Maybe the Bastet, but yeah. Sprint may be the more reliable tool against Bastet than the Aegis, but you got to respect the Kraken as well. It's a difficult lane, certainly, for the Isis in this situation.
I mean, there's only one person that can make anything out of this, and that's Mace, because he is the Isis expert. But having the Boots 1. He's not. It doesn't look like it's very obvious he's going to finish Boots first, but I want to see what he actually goes to from there. Will he go a stacking item or just like a Bancroft's Talon? I don't know.
Mid-camp's about to spawn here, Yannick rotating, and we're seeing Snoopy as well. Snoopy is one of the few hunters who almost every single mid-camp, he's there as well, and that's where we see Team SoloMid really start
Mark's going to be late here. They're going to be a little bit late, but it looks like Denial will be able to knock them off the mark. Yes, they will indeed. Shing leaping over. Mark is here, but oh, that's costly. Shing going to drop that Fear No Evil, not finding anybody. But since we have Allied here, we'll comment on when you play Medusa Allied and AFK, That seems to be the highest priority, is getting Medusa in position for level 5 3-minute mid-camp contest, as that ultimate is just so valuable. But there you see Madman Mark unable to convert, just a little bit late.
A little slow on rotations. I mean, Snoopy had really good control in lane and showing off the power of Apollo. Apollo's passive on top of Dev's Toll sustain. Even, let's say, if Madman Mark try to contest the wave and poke out Apollo, the sustain is way too much. With 7% lifesteal and Dev's Toll, there's nothing. Look at Madman Mark. There's actually nothing he could do. Even if he tries to commit on that, Snoopy could very easily turn it around. And with a good passive proc, could very easily win 1v1 engagement and sustain off it. So Snoopy, he's doing good things.
I feel like Denial is respecting or is almost scared of Team SoloMid. we saw at those mid camps, they were actually in a 4-on-2 situation. Ionic and Snoopy had rotated over. Mark was coming in as well, and Xing just took the mid camps and jumped away, even though his team was all there with him. Additionally, we see Isis going boots early and buying 2 actives before 2 minutes. Do you feel like Denial's scared
I think
right
they're trying
now?
to set up for the win condition. The win condition must not be at the mid-Harpy fights. They might be looking for something later on. Or they could very well be scared. I mean, every team's different with how they want to set up their wins. Some teams just go for the mid-Harpy fights. That's generally, which is what separates the challenger teams from the higher level teams. Where, like, for like different teams like Denial, their win condition might be later on for a Gold Fury fight or in lane, depending on what Xing's plan of action is. So, I don't know. I'm curious to see how Xing will translate that later on in the game, because Humbats does do better with more farm on him, you know? He probably doesn't want to chance Gars getting any kind of early lead on him.
Well, at the very least, Xing's early first use of that ultimate didn't find a kill, but cooldowns are back up. Everybody sitting above level 5 with their ultimates available here as we move across the 5-minute mark. Not much of an advantage at all. TSM slightly in the lead here off of a little bit more efficient early game rotations. Devo's gloves now complete on the Apollo. Transcendent stacked up to about 15 stacks for Medusa. So for the moment at least, Madman Mark should be able to wrestle back some control of this lane. But for now, my friends, it's all squared. And, well, you heard the analyst kind of questioning whether or not Denial was a little bit had a bit of trepidation fighting Team SoloMid here, and it certainly seems to be the case. I mean, they don't want to get behind because they have to win this game to keep their land hopes alive, as they have to win both of them. So getting behind in this first one and getting in your own head, I mean, it'd be better to play from ahead or at least even, I think. So the conservative game makes some sense.
Yeah, I mean, like, you don't have to take any kind of risk this early. The big risks come when the force fights start happening. Those are usually Gold Furies or big objectives like the second or third set of mid-Harpies. As long as they keep trading 1-for-1 on mid-Harpies, they can keep this going all game long. And it, like I said, it really depends on the pace they want to set. Because right now, Denial, they're not letting anything bad happen to them. But it actually looks like they want to do a Gold Fury.
I think they want to bait it, though. They actually could find Gars out there, and Ianic's going to rotate in, and he's actually going to blink. He's going to Cataclysm 3, but no follow-up.
They've rotated Snoopy in as well on the backside. Apollo trying to get their shots into Shadow Q, who's going to toss back Ionic. Cats have come out now as well. That's going to chase the Showback, but he's already lurking in the waters in the meantime. Boosh will go down to Basket, who gets right into his face and is able to take down Poseidon. Kraken notwithstanding, and now it's a 1-kill advantage for Denial. TSM knocking on the mid lane door, but there to defend is Denial. Gold Fury bait was successful. First blood credited to the red team.
Yeah, I think Ionic went a little bit prematurely there. He, there was not really that much initial follow-up, and it ended up being Boosh getting baited out, and he did die there. But Denial all backed, but doesn't look like Team SoloMid actually wants to go for any kind of objective play there. So Gold Fury is still up, and it kind of a soft reset, but First Blood going in favor of Denial, that's pretty huge. Like I said, they want it in their terms. And even though Ionic engaged on them, they recognized like there was no initial follow-up, and they turned it all around.
And I think their engagement, what they want to take, is going to be at that Gold Fury. You really look at the team comp they've drafted. Bologna, Hunbats, Isis, and even Madman Mark coming in with Medusa, all these giant AoE team fights. They have stuns, they have fears, they have slows. They have so much that if Team SoloMid is caught grouped up, they could very well just get blown up instantly. And that fight was a little bit more spread out. Denial popped their ults defensively, but if Team SoloMid was there, that could have turned poorly. More poorly than just losing First Blood.
I want to take this trend of Denial looking to not beat themselves a little bit deeper here and look into the itemization they've gone for. No real aggressive items coming out yet. The Transcendence build, very, very safe for Medusa, allows her to really stay back and farm with abilities more than her in-hands. You see Sobek investing really early on into base stats and a little bit of movement speed out of those boots. It's Frostbound Hammer open from Bologna. Really the only thing that's even remotely offensively focused outside of the jungle. And over on the other side for Team SoloMid, you can see their confidence shining through a bit. Two very, very aggressive and greedy stacking items. Devourer's Gloves, yes, now considered, I'd say, greedy with how the game is trending. So it's Devos and Doom Orb versus base stats and survivability. I mean, look at the 900 gold invested on Isis into an early Beats 3, plus that Aegis as well. All around the board. It's paying out for Denial, however, as First Blood went their way.
I would like to point out that Shadow Q decided to go for like the level 5 account SMITE builds. He seems to have gone to one into each item. I don't know what the thought process is behind it.
I think he just wanted the boots one, and I think It looks like he was initially trying to build into the Sovereignty and decided that Winged Blade is going to be a better matchup against the multiple slows
That could be
that
it.
Team SoloMid is. But he's like, okay, they got a Chalk, they have a Bastet,
Makes a lot of
and they have
sense
the
now.
Whirlpool.
We'll put
I
it
need
that
to
way.
escape that.
This is Shadowkey we're talking about here as well. I mean, unlikely that he makes an ill-advised item purchase. Definitely
That's
a
true.
Premier
He
Theory
may just want
crafter.
the 20.
The only thing here that's even really suspect is probably that Boots 1. Yeah, and I think you're right. I think that Steel Mail is completely just a base stats play. I mean, can we hover over the item, please? You'll see that it does give you a reasonable amount of health and physical protection as well.
I think it's 20 and
Yeah,
100.
20 and 100,
Yeah.
that's right. So that's a
That
nice
helps a
little bit of
ton.
survivability, especially against minions. And then the item that he really wants to build first is that Winged Blade.
Yeah, so let's see how that transitions, because also look at Ionic. He does have Traveler Shoes and Watcher's Gift online and waiting.
Right, that's the real danger of this build, is it's Travelers, all that bonus gold and experience. I'm sorry, no experience now, but all the bonus gold versus no real big payoff yet from these items.
And
Can we check gold in hand as well? Let's see what that Sobek's sitting at in relation to finishing that Winged Blade. It's about 850. I mean, so he's not the furthest away that he could be. Only maybe another 400 or 500 gold until he's able to finish that bad boy off.
Denial, I think they want to fight this, but they need to make sure not to get too out of position. And there's the
Yikes.
Kraken wasted at the start, but a huge challenge coming up from Divio. Circle protection is popped, but Xing hits a
dream.
4-man. Fear no evil.
You asked if Xing was going to show up. He shows up right there, but really credit due to Shadowkey for getting all the damage to follow that up. Nice position, nice timing. Coming out of Denial, the pluck comes back. Baskin a little bit out of position to follow up with his flail. Will he get that final shot? No, Gars is going to scratch and run away. That slow is enough. Snoopy did go down, as did Devios in that fight. Eventually, Madman Mark credited with a kill as well. 2 more kills going to Denial, this time onto the Soul Lane and the Hunter. The 2 most powerful cores going down for Team SoloMid, and now Ionic in a bit of trouble as well as the team piles in on him. Baskin in the face, 1 more lash to it. No! Just not enough, and the cone off the mark for Madman.
That was a really delayed fight, though. Snoopy spawning in 3 seconds. Denial smartly recognizes that. They're going to peel off. They're not going to go for the Gold Fury, but they found 2 more kills in that engagement, and that's the fight they wanted. They had all of Team SoloMid grouped, and Xing was able to loop around the backside and hit that 4-man Fear No Evil.
That start of that fight was all Shadowkey. He was able to not only bait out the Kraken, but Shadowkey kind of baited them and was like, hey, is Shadowkey actually going to initiate here? Well, let's just Kraken him. And saved his dash, his pluck, for the last second, plucked out of the Whirlpool, and baited that whole engagement. It was smart. I mean, like, Shadowkey unintentionally baited their whole team to death. So, like, for sure, like, I think MVP of that whole thing, besides Xing, was Shadowkey. He did really well there.
Yeah, you see Shadowkey showing off. He's one of the only original kind of remaining Guardian support players from kind of the original class of SMITE. And back in the days when Poseidon was first coming out, he was so popular until everyone kind of realized you just buy Aegis and beads against him and you can bait out his abilities. And Shadowkey kind of showing that off there. A big reason why Poseidon has fallen out of favor in times throughout the history of the game has been because it's hard to confirm those abilities. Currently, with mobility being valued, is why you see him played, but he has lost a lot of his kind of power and spunk that we saw when he first started getting played again at the beginning of Split 2.
I mean, it comes down to hitting the money Krakens, and if you can't confirm that money Krakens, it also, for competitive play in general, you want the consistency. So you get more consistency out of like a god like Isis, where you miss a Spirit Ball, well, that's a relatively short cooldown. You
So
miss
like
a
Kiki plays
Kraken,
Nuwa.
yeah. I mean, you can't miss the new
Can't miss
wall.
Nuwa.
It's a guaranteed global ultimate.
Definition of consistency.
Yeah, absolutely.
One thing that the cameraman pointed out there after that whole engagement had broke down is that the golden experience are even with Denial having first blood and additionally 2 more kills. Team SoloMid's control of the mid harpies, and even now, right, they've expanded it. Team SoloMid, even down 3 kills, are still in the lead. They're securing the mid harpies and out farming Denial in other aspects.
Objective-wise, I think Team SoloMid has complete control. Like, they have the dominance. They have, they're being very assertive. It's just when it comes down to actual engagements, Denial's just dancing around them. They're definitely playing their game.
Yeah, you kind of pointed this out a little bit earlier as well, Allied, and we'll highlight it again here as I think it's relevant, is that the execution required from Denial side is a lot higher than it is from TSMs to win these fights. So you see there, it's a pluck into a Spear Ball, into an Isis Ultimate versus Geb initiation with a Kraken follow-up. So Denial outplaying TSM, no question about it at this point in the game.
Yes, and PvE-wise, looks like TSM is kind of ahead. If this keeps up, give it like 2 or 3 more kills, and Denial will be setting up really nicely to actually win this game.
Denial's baited out 2 ultimates already. Snoopy ulted over, and Divios just ulted, but they still don't want to force the engagement with Bush's Kraken.
A little surprised there to see them not go for the gold period.
They're playing very safe and
Patience.
very calculated.
Yeah, no, this is what you need to do, especially to be a team as high as caliber as Team SoloMid. You need this patience. You need to make sure that not only is every ult down, there's no hogs, not even a hog one. You got to make sure that everyone's dead, like, absolutely, like, before you go for any kind of a gold fury. Because all it takes is one throw.
Well,
and
now
TSM
they are
can
going to go
snowball.
for it. In comes Ionic, but he gets stoned out by Medusa. Nicely played there by Madman Mark. Mace in the face, credited with that kill as well. Too little, too late from Ionic. He tried to go back in. Denial, not so free now.
Caught with their pants down. No wards anywhere near the gold fury.
Yep, and Denial recognized the situation, and yeah, they did it. And like I said, Denial, if they turn on, especially with their record against Team SoloMid, they're one of the very few teams that can beat them. For whatever reason, Denial they have it in them to beat them, and I give them respect for that. They're showing up right now. I'm proud of them.
They really seem to have Team SoloMid's number. And Team SoloMid, right, just I don't want to say the fall, really the rise of these other North American teams, you specifically, AFK, now battling your number 2, or excuse me, the top seed now coming into the summer split. And Denial has really shown that growth as well, that the top 4 in North America are this competitive, that Team SoloMid last season, where they dropped 2 games to a combat pause and a DC, like, they can be beat now. This is a very competitive region.
Yeah, I mean, I do like the fact that they're playing their own game. Nothing's really being forced. Shing seems fine. Seems to be doing the things he has to do. And, like I said, I always felt like they could easily be a top 3 team. It's just they're missing a little bit of oomph. And maybe that oomph was Madman Mark. I mean, he is playing lights out right now.
Madman Mark certainly has been oomph in recent memory. We've seen this player really, really shine in his limited play in the Pro League in Split 2. Split 1, he did quite well as well, I guess, for this team. And really kind of opened up the debate as to whether or not there was any standout hunter in the Pro League. I mean, at the time, Barracuda, Allied sitting at the top there. Now Zatman joining them as well. But Madman Mark, if he's going to play consistently again, definitely in the conversation for one of the best, if not the best, in North America.
Why? Do you know why he exactly? I know it was, I think, practice schedule is what I was told, or what Denial
it's probably
said.
school.
He wasn't able to make the games.
He's a young boy. Last time I checked, I think he's like literally 15, 16.
Okay, there's something about 15-year-olds.
Yeah.
Divios, Cyclone Spin, Mark.
So why is he Madman Mark 22 if he's not 22?
Probably mad because he can't play Smite.
Maybe he's mad because, yeah, there you go.
Maybe he wishes he was 22.
Yeah, then would he be Gladman Mark if he was 22?
Who knows? Maybe he wants to buy some beer. I don't know. It's over.
Who doesn't want to buy some beer these days? It's hot in Georgia, man.
Yeah.
It really is.
90 degrees.
Hot.
Well, friends, approaching the 17-minute mark here. It's still a 5-kill advantage for Denial, but the graphs don't really represent it that well. It's just that 1,000 gold, mostly credited to the Gold Fury there. Experience basically even.
Slow
This
game.
game is essentially tied up. It's very, very slow. And coming off a couple of European sets, Allied, this is you got to be no stranger to the pacing of this game.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I don't blame it, especially as things become closer to the end. It's the end of the summer split. Every game counts. Every single camp you do, every single decision-making, like, things that you have to do, it counts because, well, this is it. Like, you want to go to LAN, you want to make the money. So, yeah, Denial's taking their time with this one, which is very weird because they're the ones to usually invade, right?
Their style has completely changed, I think, mid-season, though. We saw it the first couple weeks, but because other teams like yourselves are playing these aggressive styles and counteracting it, and they don't really have the strong invade potential they used to, they started adapting to this new style, this new 3-man wombo combos, these huge AoE ults, and we're seeing it work for them right now.
A little worried here for Team SoloMid. Looking at Denial's draft, looking at the advantage they have, or at least the parity they have, it's really one of the lowest CC-oriented squads that I've seen drafted in a long time out of TSM. Apollo Serenade, really, and the
Cataclysm
are the only 2 really guaranteed CCs. Divios, he's going to eat that Fear No Evil toss back as well. Does he even axe down? Nope. It's going to be the Storm Call. Is it going to be enough? It's not. Bask in the face credited for that kill. Gar's going to try to get a return kill on the backside. That should be available. Yes, it will. Snoopy crashing in as well. The first kill credited to TSM in this game. Bask into the face. not much they can do to really stop him. And this goes back to the earlier conversation I was just having. Very little actual CC on the side of Team SoloMid. The fight continues on. Cataclysm used by Ionic. Cracking on the mark this time, but it's Shadow Q. He's very resilient. Will he go down to Whirlpool? No. Dashing forward, one more knock. I'm not going to be there. Madman Mark, Shing, and Shadow Q all surviving under a quarter HP. Baskin joining the crew as well, and he's going to fall back. Can TSM convert this mass retreat from Denial into anything? No. Baskin in the face, blowing his teleport to towers to go ahead and defend that one up, and it looks like TSM unable to get much out of that one kill. They just trade 1 for 1.
It's hard to believe that that was just a 1-for-1. There was so much, not only just smart decision-making there, but it was also so much disengagement out of both teams, recognizing when they were low enough to back up. And like you mentioned before, Bart, TSM's going to have a really hard time locking down these kills. I mean, that was pretty much it. They only have Apollo Mez and Geb, you know, his small knockup or his ult. So there's not really much for them to lock down these kills, and this could be a recurring theme for TSM that might spell their downfall.
Yeah, I'm looking at the late game where you have Bologna and basically no CC to stop her.
Yeah.
You know, Shing, Hunbots can always get blown up by just the right spell at the right time, but that Bologna is going to be very, very resilient, and without any CC to slow her down, it's going to make a ton of space for Madman Mark to kind of wrap around these fights, as they're not going to be able to peel the Bologna away.
Yeah, it looks like TSM just went for a traditional, like, we got the damage, we got, like, soft CC, that might be enough, but they're not really converting it that well, especially considering that they're behind in kills. But, I mean, that last team fight showed some hope. They did whittle all of Denial down on the defensive, and I guess you consider that a one-team fight for them, right?
Yeah, but I don't think the TSM is really getting their game plan together. I mean, anytime you see a Bastet drafted and an Apollo with Devourer's gloves, that's an objective strategy.
Yes.
I mean, there's no buts about it, and they haven't had the control. They haven't been able to make the space to kind of take that down with that 3-god combination of Get, Bastet, Apollo.
And the Chalk really isn't doing much for me right now. 0-2 and 1. I don't get the same effect out of Devios, especially on Chalk this time around. So
he's been very front line. We've seen his ult used defensively more than anything. He hasn't really offensively gone at least with other follow-up from his team. Last time he got picked there at the start of that fight, and then the fight before that, I think at the Gold Fury.
He was picked twice
yeah,
and used his ultimate.
He hasn't been getting it rolling.
Only one time did he aggress with the ultimate, and it was in that corridor just north of the Gold Fury on the Chaos side. Hitting 2, but the damage was already done there. First blood already drawn by Denial. So of his 3 ultimates we've seen used outside of the lane, 2 of them used it just saved his life unsuccessfully, and 1 used for a failed initiation.
Does Sobek have Aegis?
Yes, he does.
Oh, wow.
It's Shadow Q.
Shadow Q. He
Never
knows how to play, and not only for the team, but for himself. He can keep himself alive.
The team doesn't really need a Shell or a Heavenly. They have we talked about it before, right? Team SoloMid doesn't have the lockdown. Most of the Denial can either peel for themselves or peel for the rest of their team. It's not all on Shadow Q this game to protect his team. He can get that Aegis to keep baiting out the Krakens like we saw earlier. Next time Boosh tries to use a Kraken on him, even if he can't dash out, he's just going to Aegis it. And without that Kraken, Team SoloMid is going to have a hard time getting damage off onto Denial's carries.
Well, to answer an earlier question, Isis did itemize into Spear of the Magus over the Bancroft's Talon here, so no sustain out yet for the Isis. And yeah, now into a breastplate of Valor. So the defensive trend continues here for Denial.
Last death, he was completely dove by Gars, and Gars was able to get his entire kit off. And even with Beats 3 and Aegis, Mace couldn't survive
Gold
through
Fury
it.
started up left side here. Apollo and Geb, they're going to try to do the damage to it, but Denial is already there. They may be able to pick this one back up before it fully resets on HP. No. They're just going to push TSM off the ball. No sentry wards in the inventory for TSM, and we tough for them to deal with this. Actually plucked out of the rollout here is Yannick. Yannick's going to force Cataclysm here to try to live. He's going to hit 2. He's going to knock up 3. Can they continue? No. Without another Spear Ball, unable to keep him in position. Snoopy's going to rotate in. He's going to try to make the play onto Mace of the face in that Isis ultimate. He's going to pop it off. Shadow Q is going to have at least one tail up. Try to disrupt. Not in time. Degar's not enough to take out Mace of the face. Bologna, she puts out her ultimate in Denial, able to fight on it, at least for the moment. You see TSM running, but Divios, he goes back in. He thinks he can fight. Rain Dance used as well as a Geb shield. Gars, he's slowed by Medusa ultimate. That's huge. They now can go through this choke. But it doesn't matter. TSM unable to continue initiating. The McCall is made. Turn back. Let's take the Gold Fury. Snoopy already has it down. About a third of its HP. The team piles in. Divios, he's going to silence out Shadow Q.
Fear no
that
evil.
Should be that. Fear no evil. Doesn't matter. Not going to make it in time. TSM looks a little bit greedy as they move forward here. We'll see if Denial's able to find some kills.
Divios here. He's going to chase down Baskin, but Denial's not going to have any of it. They're going to take the Gold Fury. They're going to take mid camps, and they're going to take back the lead. Denial, who played this very slow and calculated game, finding the first Gold Fury, the first 5 kills, quickly have fallen after 1 engagement.
I mean, right there was just Apollo ulted in and was able to actually gas pedal Mace to the face. I mean, Snoopy
That's
basically,
twice now.
Yeah, just soloed out Isis and was like, "You're dead, you're mine." And just off that play alone, even though it was a 4v5, there were so many ults used, especially to disengage from both sides, that TSM had the advantage. They had the map control and just went for the goal Fury. I mean, Medusa's Stone Gaze didn't even connect, and there was not enough peel for Isis to actually get away. It makes me wonder, is the breastplate even really worth it? Even with breastplate 2, she wasn't able to survive a gas pedal out of
That's
Apollo.
not going to stop those cats.
That's more on denial as a team, needing to protect Mace better, or Mace needing to position himself better so he can't get dove. Because we saw them split really in that corridor. We saw half the team run to the tower, but Mace was caught in that choke point and had to go backwards. And they had the Bastet, and then we saw Snoopy come in and able to gas pedal him
I
down,
want to take a
like you
moment
said.
here to highlight Shadow Q's warding. So you see that ward in the mid lane that we're kind of looking at. Very, very unconventional spot. Normally when you see this lane ward, it's pushed way back towards the tower to see the rotations coming out of the lanes. He's avoiding that normal sentry spot to put one here. And then to the top left of this lane as well. He puts the ward behind the wall at the Gold Fury so that you can't counter it. And then the one that spots at the purple buff on the bottom left side, also stuck in an unconventional spot. If you're a burgeoning support player out there, should definitely check out this replay and see where and why he's placing these wards. Very, very difficult to counter these as they're in super unconventional spots.
There goes the Snoopy dash away. Snoopy always does that. He zoned out Man Mark just enough to make sure the creeps got under the tower. Man Mark didn't get any of that. Small little wins like that add up, and we actually have the initiation there.
Hunbot's going to try his hand. Someone going to use his ultimate as well. The Cats will use Ionic once again out on an island. Denial. I want to make a statement about those comments I guess Ionic made. The T off him yet again makes the face credited for that one. Boost tries to stand his ground in fighting his maxed out Trident. It's going to be back up now. The Whirlpool as well. Kraken comes out. Base of the face is down. No, it's Baskin, I'm sorry. And now leaping away is the Hunbots crashing into Snoopy. Silence out of his dash. Cannot serenade out. And you'll see the lack of CC starting to play in here a bit. But they're still able to take down Shadow Q with the slows and the soft CC on the side of TSM. And now Divios, he's tanking up in the front line to move forward. But the Spirit Ball at point blank enough to slow him down. Here comes Madman Mark. He's going to hit all three with his ultimate, slowing them down. Dashing back is Divios. Gars moves forward. He's going to have to leap back as well. Snoopy on an island now. The silence, it doesn't matter. The strip protections, it's not enough. Madman Mark trying to backpedal. In comes Snoopy. Aussie Proc is down. The slow hit. Down he goes. A double for Snoopy.
Snoopy's just able to come into every single team fight and do whatever he wants. He was sitting on the front line for most of that fight. He came in at the end after every ult was blown and able to find a double kill on two players who really shouldn't have died.
Apollo just showing his strengths, especially with the Serenade there, giving extra physical protection. I mean, Snoopy was basically another frontline at that point, and now it's actually an early fire giant attempt out of TSM. I like this, knowing that Denial's on a full retreat, especially with Snoopy getting the double kill. And this is really where, like I mentioned before, the build of Devo Gloves to Ickville to Executioner is a much stronger build than the Transcendence build going into mid to late game. Especially complements the fact that since Apollo has no mana problems, he power spikes a lot harder, and it shows in these team fights. Snoopy making a lot more aggressive plays, making a lot more things happen.
Yeah, you can see him already. He's already got Crit 2 online here.
Oh, he's a monster.
Not enough for the Rage Blade, but he's got his actives max, and he's swinging much harder than Mark. And now he has Fire Giant.
I feel bad because I know for a fact that a lot of people say, like, oh, well, who's the best hunter? Well, it's that man. It's Barracuda. And then some people even say me. But honestly, like, I still think that Snoopy is by far the hardest hunter I go against. Like, in all of SPL. Like, he is consistent. He does the right things. He's a good player, and he's a good guy.
He may not make the flashy plays, but he plays so consistently and so
play
perfectly.
Well from behind to someone like you.
No, no, you get Snoopy 1,000 go behind, he's not as good as me, obviously.
There you go.
But
That's what I wanted to hear.
He knows what he's doing, and Snoopy, I think, at least in my eyes, deserves a little bit more credit because he's the reason why TSM is turning this around onto now. He's making the hot plays.
Yeah, TSM and Snoopy in particular, he's kind of that perfect blend of calculated and aggressive. You know, you see him get involved early and often with those ultimates, but also still, you know, finds really nice lane presence and maybe not a 10 in all categories, but, you know, he's an 8 or a 9 in all of the relevant stats, it seems like, including intangibles for the Hunter players. Whereas at many of the other players, they have kind of their peaks and valleys in terms of what they're good at. Snoopy's just so consistent, as you mentioned.
Snoopy actually has the most First Bloods of any Hunter in the SPL. I believe he's tied with Allied, actually, at 3. And his team has 6 First Bloods.
That's all Ionic.
So it's all Ionic. Snoopy's just stealing them
That's
away
Ionic and
from Ionic.
Yeah.
His heart's in it.
That's right. Yeah, when his heart's in it, he gets first bloods. All right, he sets up the first bloods, I guess.
What do you think Denial's strategy is going to be for these next couple of fights? Because they're getting in these extended engagements, and it seems the longer they're going, the more Team SoloMid is picking them off individually.
I mean, really, it's up to what TSM decides to do. They took the Fire Giant. It really comes down to how well can they deal with the Chalk. Now, this is the point where Chalk gets a little bit scary because now he's just a fat slop. Devios is huge. He does have a ton of damage, and it's actually funny. Devios went into Brawler's Beatstick. That is quite the pickup, but
Pen,
nonetheless,
power.
Devios is tanky, especially knowing that Isis has no damage. Like,
Right.
really, Spear the Magus. He just needs to stack on physical defense at this point, as TSM will take all the towers at this point.
Yeah, maybe a little bit too much invested from Denial in the mid stages of this game into that Chalk. I mean, they could have just ignored him. That's really one of the big downsides of this character. Unlike a Tier, that's that other kind of very safe pick into the solo lane, Chalk can be ignored for the majority of the mid game, where Tier still has that big CC chain. And yeah, that's what we're seeing here. Now they spent a lot on the Divios. They didn't really shut him down. He's getting fine itemization progression. You've got Apollo sitting at 3-1. And yeah, no one's really stopped. And Magi's Blessing complete here for the Geb. In addition to that Stone of Gaia, he's very, very resilient. And Poseidon, in kind of stark contrast to the Isis, is fully itemized into damage.
Yeah. Like, it's not looking good right now for Denial in terms of damage output, really relying on the Bellona, relying on Shang. He does have the Deathbringer online, and relying on Madman Mark, but not having... I mean, the Isis at this point is a full-blown support, and yeah, it's showing. I mean, I feel like Mist to Face is not having this the same effect as, let's say, a more aggressive build.
There's also a ton of pressure on a Shing here.
Yes.
Really the only real core damage dealer that they have up and running right now, with the exception of Madman Mark.
His damage is very RNG too.
That's
he
right.
has abilities that swing, but a lot of it comes off of Hoonbot's passive, where after he uses an ability, the next in-hand has a chance to crit. That's why we see him go that Deathbringer build. But if he doesn't get the crit, then he kind of just is there to throw out Fear No Evil and do a little bit of AoE damage. If he's not getting that RNG, if he's not critting, it's not a good look for Denial picking off players instantly.
Yeah, and those kills are becoming harder and harder to come by. Now, 2 Magi's Blessings out. Bastet as well as Geb on the side of TSM, rocking the bubble.
Yeah, at this point, I think Denial is just waiting. Fire Giant is down for Team SoloMid, and it's going to come down to the next engagement, and it is 7-6 in Denial's favor, but since the last time they got kills, that was like 3 towers and a Fire Giant.
They got like the first 5 kills, and then since then it's gone 6-2 in favor of Team SoloMid.
I mean, it's a very slow game. People don't want to make mistakes, but this next forced engagement is going to be at the Fire Giant. It's going to be explosive.
Shadowq continuing with the head scratchers here in terms of itemization. It's another Ancient Blade coming out before touching boots too.
Looking for the Witchblade, it looks like.
Yeah, can we talk a little bit about the Witchblade? It had a small buff coming in, but the item's still not necessarily the strongest thing in the world. You know,
I think it's good. It comes down to, like, health stacking is such a powerful thing right now in the meta.
well, why did it swing so quickly away from Midgardian Male? You see Divios.
He's in the middle of every single one.
Taking a page out of maybe Omega's book here, trying to fight the whole team. And now it's Shadowq who's put in the awkward position. Snoopy needs to turn around and help secure this one for his team.
I don't think he needs to. I think the rest of the team has it. Snoopy's going to find Shing, and Shadowq, he's ulting, but he's just going to get crit up by Snoopy. Double kill, and now he's just gas pedaling down everyone as Divios finds the 3rd kill.
I think this may be very well be game. Mace to the face, as we mentioned the entire time, no damage really. And the Fire Giant buff active for TSM as
Two to defend.
They walk in here.
They just don't have damage. A 5-man
Bellona
Bellona.
hits everybody, but Kraken is there. It's going to be enough with the crits. Divios credited for that kill. It looks like TSM's going to take this one down in game number 1. So, hey, unfortunately, this next game is basically just going to be a show match here.
Yeah, I mean, it was unfortunate. I feel like Denial did what they had to do. It just wasn't enough, and it showed. You could tell they were maybe a little bit scared. They did the right things.